right, everyone. Welcome into Panther Prowl here on the SDH Network. I'm Madison Crews, and joined with me is the head coach for the Georgia State women's soccer team in Ed Joyce. And we're going to talk a little bit about that matchup against Louisiana. So, Coach, a 1-0 victory on the road solidified you guys, especially heading into the Sun Belt Conference Championship. How proud are you of the girls coming in and getting a result like that?
I'm really happy. I mean, if you look at the past performances, to be fair, we've been in a good spot. We've kind of strung some together and kind of got some rhythm, probably at the right time of the year. I think if you look at the season as a whole, we'd probably want this to have happened the whole time. But I mean, we'd much rather have us peaking at this time rather than peaking in the beginning and not kind of following through at the end. But I mean, Louisiana, tough place to go. It was 85 degrees in October, which is not really what we're used to at this time of year. So I mean, having the performance there and working hard and traveling, it's less than 24-hour trip really. So to get there and get what we felt was a pretty one-sided 1-0 we felt in terms of the run of play and just kind of the way the chances fell. So proud of them defensively. We've kind of shored some things up a little bit, thankfully, which is kind of more of our MO from year to year. And yeah, they just did a great job. So we're really happy to see kind of what we can do moving into Thursday.
You talk about the beginning of the season to now, and it really feels like has been this big shift. What do you think has changed that has allowed you guys to see such success you guys had in the back half of the season?
I think it's challenging when you have as many injuries as we had. I think we haven't really got any of those injuries back per se. We've got a couple of players that may be closer to 90% than they were. But I mean, I think it's more when you get down as a group, you can kind of start leaning against those things as reasons and excuses rather than like things to overcome. So I feel like once the chips were down, we put ourselves in a corner. To be fair, we had to kind of battle out of it and start with ODU, which we all know what happened at the end of that game. But that one we probably should be 4 in a row right now and be in a much more interesting place looking at Thursday's result upcoming. So girls have been great. They've stayed together. We've been saying all the time, you come to training and you watch training, even when we were struggling more than we'd like to have been, you wouldn't have seen a team from the outside that looked like they weren't doing well. They've trained well, they've worked together, they compete, they battle, and they enjoy themselves. And that's kind of where the focus has been, is like, Atlanta have been going through a thing where like, they're only worried about themselves, and they've got a little abbreviation there they've been using. So whereas, we've kind of talked about that here as well. It's like nobody cares more about this program than the people in the room, and we've got to circle the wagons and do things properly, which we felt we did, and we felt we have done. And going into Thursday, we've got to do it again.
One of those players I think that was injured and has come back and has made a huge impact on the offense is Bree Barley. I think she's someone who has been a leader on that team as well, being her senior year, but coming in and able to really make a difference. What has it been like to get her back onto the pitch after she sustained that injury?
Yeah, she obviously was playing really well start of the year, probably came in as fit and ready as she has done in a couple of years, playing over the summer with Decatur FC, having a good year with them and coming sharp. And then one tackle and against Ole Miss and she's out for a little bit. And then, it's for a power athlete like her, like she has to feel right. And I don't think she did until probably, the Monroe game. I think it's probably the first time she felt good. And I think that's confidence is everything, even for a fourth-year player who's been all region, who's scored lots of goals, who's been, important for us. Like she has to believe that she feels well. And I don't think she did for a few games, but I think now she's getting back there. I think the most understated thing that she does is her defending, and in our shape, she's a great presser of the ball, and a lot of the goals she scores are from that side of things, and she creates for others as well. So having her back being, a physical presence, I think is an area that we've missed. Valondra being out all season long, that was an area that we definitely had some support in the past that we didn't have this year. So, having her back is huge. And it kind of allows a couple other players to kind of focus more on being impact substitutes and coming in and really giving us the best they can for, a finite window, which I think also helps a younger player kind of define their role a bit more easily.
We talk a lot about the offense, especially with how much goals you guys are producing in games, but I want to take a little bit and look back at the back line and the defense. Jada Foos in net, as well as that back line. You guys have only allowed 3 goals since that matchup against Old Dominion. How impressed have you been with this back line, especially their connection as they've been playing together for a long time now with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, Callie's been talked about, ad nauseum recently, and so's Jay, and for good reasons. They stayed with our program, been dedicated to us for 5 years, and played a huge amount of games. And we really hope that Jay gets another shout out over the line to solidify that record as her own. But I mean, they're leaders as well. I think they get a lot of plaudits, but I think Brooke Nelson, Therese have really kind of gone unspoken about a little bit, just because they're not scoring goals. They're not, although Nelson had 2 assists and Georgia Southern from centre back, which is intriguing, but they're not getting a lot of the plaudits. But I mean, they're both, kind of a little bit out of position. They both would tell you that they're centre mids by trade and growing up. And like with our system, though, I think they get on the ball a lot, which does kind of quench that thirst a little bit of centre mids wanting the ball all the time. But they've really embraced in the last 4 or 5 games the horrible parts of the game, the heading it, the blocking shots, the winning tackles. They're doing things that, they would much rather get the ball on the floor and do the pretty stuff. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that the mind frame that we've had is, we talk about it. They laugh at me all the time because I talk about block shots win games, and I think they laugh about it, but you can see it happening. They block shots and we don't concede a lot of real chances, and we felt like earlier in the year we weren't really giving up big chances. We were just, kids were scoring the goals of their life. Like South Alabama, we concede, absolute worldies. Fair play to the kids, but I mean, things that don't usually go in, so we think it's our hard work is paying off, and that the game's kind of paying us back a little bit with just some results, but they're earning them, and we're really proud of them all. I mean, probably the biggest one, Mackenzie Fitzgerald, being put in it right back as a freshman and kind of figuring out as she goes. We're super proud of her. She's a hard worker. She just always wants to do video and probably wants to do too much training, to be honest. We have to tell her to stop from time to time, because she's playing 80 to 90 minutes a game now, which is, it's a lot, to get thrown in the fire at the end of the season. So we're really proud of them. But, our big mentality here has always been that we defend with 11, and that's probably my biggest frustration this season because of the injuries, has been how kind of porous we were early on, because that's not anything we've ever been in my time here. So last year we conceded 12 goals the entire season, so we have to give ourselves a bit of grace as well, because our schedule this season has been really difficult. But we did it because we thought it would get us ready for the important time of the year, and so far it has, and hopefully that continues.
I feel like a player that really embodies that. I feel like also a player that goes under the radar a little bit is Elena Diaz, and especially how she moves in the midfield. How important is she to the overall structure of this team?
I mean, for me, she's the best player in the league. I say it week in, week out. Like, if I'm picking a 5-a-side team, she's in it. If I'm picking an 11-a-side team, she's in it. If I'm picking a 7-a-side team, she's in it. If we're playing 2v2, she's in it, So, she doesn't get a hell of a lot of statistics in her favour. Does in training. Scores a lot of goals in training. But the role we have to ask her sometimes is a little bit deeper, because she dictates play from deep. She's a fantastic defender, in a group defender and a 1v1 defender. She battles. She's good in the air. I've been telling everybody who will listen that she should be playing somewhere at the next level and hoping someone gets an opportunity. But I mean, she's just a team kid, does everything for us and does everything for everybody else. And I don't know anybody that doesn't like her. So, I mean, she's been a dream, and we're hoping to keep the season extending as long as possible to keep watching her play, to be honest. But I think anybody who watches a game of football and knows a game of football, watches us play, picks her out and says, wow, she's different. And hopefully, like I said, our jobs now is to keep winning games, obviously as a group, but ultimately keep putting her in a shop window and get her opportunities after she's finished there.
She was a player that I think this season I've kind of watched a little bit, even mentioned it when I was on the call for you guys in the Georgia Southern game. She's someone that I think just can dictate play so well, and what she can do in the midfield, kind of go back, sit back, be that extra defender when needed, but also can come forward and create and facilitate those opportunities and even make a run. Yeah.
I mean, she's my son's favorite player, and he's 7, and he's a hard critic. So, I think he says the same things. I think you look at it and you see the aspects of what you watch on television come through her. Like she does she'll pop a ball over your head and get it back, but she'll also put her foot in a winner tackle, which I think is, it's a hard combination to find, especially at our level, because most of those kids have already been found by somebody else. So, I mean, you throw in the fact that she's almost a 4.0 math major as well, and it's a pretty incredible combination. But but her biggest thing for her is her passion. I always say I'm the most competitive in the room, but she pushes me for every bit of that.
I love it. And I mean, going back, one player that I think is so important to that offense too, Emily Glenn has really stepped up in that offensive role. What has she brought up top, especially in these last couple of games? Have you seen maybe the change in personality, especially up top?
Just graft. I mean, she works so hard, and that's never been a problem with her. We always joke she was the first call I ever made in her recruiting class was to Emmy, and she disappeared for a year, and then all of a sudden her coach called me and asked me if I knew who she was, and I was like, well, yeah, I called her first, but she was a defensive midfield player as a club player, and she came in and she said to me, I want to be a 10, and then we tried her in there, and then she just gravitated up front because she works so hard and she hits the ball so well. But I mean, I think her and Aaliyah get on really well off the pitch as well, so I think we're seeing a lot of that transfer into on the field chemistry as well. And she just does everything. That she's never perfect. There's always some things because she's just a quirky kid, and some of that transfers to the pitch as well. But you can't get upset with her because everything she does is 100 miles an hour for the best of the group. And that's, if I was to tell any young player that comes in our program what you need to do, it's you need to work like Callie and Emmy Glenn, and you'll maximize what you do. So happy for her to get some results in terms of goals, because in the past she's worked extremely hard and maybe not been rewarded as much as she should have done. But I'm hoping she's coming in at just the right time for whatever may come her way. Yeah.
We haven't spoken, I think, since you guys had that senior night against Georgia Southern, that heated rivalry as well, especially it coming on a senior night, your last home game. What were the emotions like leading up to that day, the day of, and especially it being senior night? How proud are you of these seniors that you've had since the very beginning and are now coming into their own and are about to be leaving?
Yeah, we've always been really strategic with senior night. So we do the senior celebration early in the season. And then obviously the ramification of the Georgia Southern game was it was the last home game for these players, which, a lot of them have been here 5 years. All of them been here 4 years, and it's a class that we've won a lot of games with, and that we've kind of put a stamp on who we want to be as a program, and they've been a huge part of that, in the locker room, which I think, quite frankly, in any sport, I can say what I want, but if it's being reinforced in there, that's when we get better. And I think that's probably what these girls have brought most to the table. So, with no disrespect to Georgia Southern, that we put ourselves in a situation going into the last 4 or 5 games where we had to win them, and we knew that. So, I mean, we've been attacking each game kind of as a cup final, and one game at a time, and we didn't really care who we were playing against. I think it was more just about us and our mentality and how we approached the game. And that's what I was proud of, is that we, a game that always has the emotion, always has a bit extra in it. I felt we approached it the same way we have done ODU and ULM and Lafayette. And that's probably my proudest moment. I think in the past, I've been in 9 years, which is hard to fathom currently, but been in 9 years. And I think in the past, that game has, I won't say been too big for us, but it's been thought of in maybe elevated to a level which it didn't need to be. Because, I mean, it's a game of football. We have to win. They want to win. And generally, who does better will win. But I thought this time we had a good balance of passion about the occasion, but also focus on the execution portion.
Leading into this game, Coastal Carolina, last game of the season, decision day for the Sun Belt. What is the message leading into that game? And also, what does Coastal Carolina do well that you guys are going to try to exploit, especially going to come out with the result on decision day?
Yeah, I think, we're going to go in the same way. We're going into it as a cup final because now we're playing for seeding, and we can finish, I think, as high as 4th or 5th, depending on some crazy tiebreak situations. So, I mean, we want to do that. So I think for us, it's approaching it the same way we have done. It's about us. It's about our group, about what we want to do. and about doing the little things, block shots, win games. We press as a team, we defend as a team. We run forward and try and get in the box and do the simple things that are just tenets of our program. Coastal, I think they're very similar to us. They're going to play out the back. They play a brand that's quite similar. They can build in the 3, they can build in the 4, they build in the 2. They use a keeper, they don't. So, I mean, the real positive for us is in a lot of fashion, it's like us playing a similar version of ourselves. So as opposed to, some of the teams we played recently are a bit more direct and are much more challenging for us to prepare for. We feel this is a good game for us to prepare for. And, they're in a position as well where they're doing the same thing and trying to win for points as well. So I anticipate it being a pretty open yet cagey. I think open in terms of teams are going to be playing, but I think it's going to be, quite a mid-block heavy game, and we'll kind of see where it goes. But again, I told the girls after the game at Lafayette, I was like, this isn't about me. This is about them. They've worked hard for results and they deserve the results, because they've put the work in. They're the ones running the miles. They're the ones pressing. They're the ones taking risk on the ball. And, they're the ones doing it. So, I mean, it's not about us as coaches. It's about players. And I think they've deserved more than they've got before ODU. And I think they deserve more at ODU. And I think since then we've kind of tried to take results as opposed to kind of letting the football dictate the results. We tried to just take them in special moments. And I think if Louisiana's, we probably should have been 3-4 clear based on chances. So I'm hoping we can be a bit more clinical in the attack in third Thursday.
Is it difficult to go up against a team that is very similar to how you play? Is it a little different with how you look at it? Or is it kind of just a little bit just like, hey, we know what they're going to do. This is what we need to do to try and quantify that?
I just think with today's player, it's really important that you don't over focus on the opponent, because then it's like, well, why are we worried about them so much? What about they should be worried about us? And I think that's a great point. They do good things well. They do some things that aren't so great. We do some things well. I'm sure they see some things in us that they think they can exploit as well. And that's kind of why this game is exciting to me, because it is more of there's decisions to make as opposed to situations to deal with. So, I mean, our plan will be in place. I'm sure theirs will as well. But I mean, for us, I think playing against teams that play more similarly to us is more familiar to the players. And ultimately, it's a players' game. They have to make decisions. They've got to adjust, and they've got to perform. So for us, that's why we like, soccer compared to some of the more scripted sports around. Like, all our work's done in really beforehand, and then the girls have to execute. So we trust our group. We believe in our group, and we think we're in a position where no one's going to be too thrilled if they have to play us. And that's kind of what we've talked about for years, is like, we want to be a team when people have to play us, they're not looking forward to it. And I think we're getting to that point throughout the season.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much again for the time, and good luck on Thursday.
I appreciate it. Thank you.